Angel, cancel the ticket. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No way. Luke just said he's not going to be at the show on Thursday.
What are you going to do?
OwlSports Update is live.
And it starts right now.
Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new edition of OwlSports Update. I'm Lindsay Moppert, and if you haven't noticed yet, my good friend and teammate Emily Cochran is sitting in for Luke Mealy today.
Yeah, from the sideline to the studio, you just can't separate us. Coming up, we have both soccer teams playing national ranked rivals. Volleyball hosts its own tournament, and we will check in with the Aloha State. We'll kick it off with some football. It was a beautiful day at the link for the Owls home opener with fans in the stands for the first time in about 2 years. But the cheering didn't last long. Right from the start, Boston College gets going. Travis Levi fields the opening kickoff from the 5-yard line and finds a hole up the middle before breaking it outside for a 67-yard return all the way inside Temple's 30. And it didn't take long for the Eagles to put points on the board. Just 3 plays later, BC is in the red zone. Dennis Grossell finds Jadan Williams for a 19-yard touchdown, and for the second straight week, the Owls give up a score on the opening drive of the game. But just like in Akron, Temple's defense steps up early. It's Keyshawn Paul here who picks off Grossell on this deep ball in what was the only turnover of the game for either side. But after a quick 3-and-out, the Eagles get the ball right back, and Pat Garwell caps off a 10-play, 8-minute drive to put Boston College up 2 scores in the first quarter. To the second quarter, where BC is right back inside the 5, and same result. This time, it's Levi diving across the goal line, putting the Owls down 21-0 before halftime. But unlike the Akron game, Temple is unable to come back from this deficit. Here, Edward Sadie puts the ball on the ground, and Temple does recover, but that stalls the drive. The Owls end up having to settle for a 32-yard field goal from Rory Bell. It was Temple's longest drive of the day, which only went for 47 yards. And just before the end of the game, the Eagles are right back on the Cherry and White's goal line. They rush in for one more touchdown. This time, it's Grossell. Boston College rushed for 179 yards and 3 TDs, outgaining the Owls by nearly 100 yards on the ground. Final score, BC 28, Temple 3.
So Temple's home opener did not go as planned. A lack of offense, efficiency, and penalties were the main culprits for the Owls giving up 3 touchdowns on the ground. OwlSports Update's AJ Patel reports from Lincoln Financial Field.
Temple's season opener did not go as planned for the Owls in the blowout loss to Boston College. Their only points in the game came off the foot of Rory Bell in the 4th quarter. Temple got off to a slow start, allowing the Eagles to score on their opening drive.
We got to execute. You feel me? We take that all on us. At the end of the day, can't blame nobody but ourselves. We got to come out striking from the very first play.
Temple had trouble moving the ball through the air. Justin Lynch did not look like the same quarterback who led the Owls to a Week 2 win against Akron. It does not help that his favorite receiver, Randall Jones, went down in the 3rd quarter.
Justin knows this, so I'm not speaking out of turn. Just did not play well in the first half, and I'm not placing it on him because we weren't running the ball very well either.
Temple's lack of production also stems from self-inflicted wounds. The Owls' penalties came at the worst possible moments. Out of the 11 total penalties called, 5 of them happened right here in the red zone.
All the penalties today and key situational football that we failed in. led to that.
Inconsistencies in offensive performance is something the Owls look to clean up before hosting the Wagner Seahawks this upcoming Saturday. At Lincoln Financial Field, I'm AJ Patel, OwlSports Update.
AJ mentioned the penalties. The Owls picked up 11 flags on Saturday compared to just 3 for Boston College.
Many eyes will be on the man behind center on Saturday. The big question, who will get the start? Juwan Mathis has been day-to-day since the Owls season opener against Rutgers, where he suffered a left ankle injury. Since then, Justin Lynch has won the backup quarterback position. Lynch was very strong against Akron and shaky against Boston College. Overall, neither QB has proved to be completely in sync with the rest of the offense. Our Inside the Nest crew is on board with Lynch getting the start. Wagner has only won 1 of its last 17 games. If Lynch starts, it gives DeJuan an early week of rest and an extra week to heal.
Justin, didn't play well, but then, the rest of the guys need to step up with a true freshman in there.
Anything new on DeJuan, or is he still kind of day-to-day heading into Saturday?
And I'm hopeful. Like I told you, I think it was Saturday. All of it's a blur right now. That last 20% on an injury like this, it's that you can get stuck in there, and then all of a sudden it just goes. So I'm hoping at some point here it just goes.
Regardless of who is behind center, we do know the Owls will take the field Saturday versus the winless Wagner Seahawks. Both teams will be looking to put their struggles behind them with kickoff at 12 p.m. live on ESPN+. Follow us at OwlSports Update for coverage of the game, as we've got 2 crews heading to Lincoln Financial Field for the second of this 3-game homestand.
It was a mixed week for the Temple's women's soccer team. 2 tough ones, including a road trip for a conference opener and then home for a game against a City 6 rival. First, the conference game at Memphis. The Owls ran into one of the top teams in the American in the Tigers, who moved to 7-1-1 with a 4-0 win. The Owls kept it close in the first half, giving up 1 goal, but Memphis poured it on in the final 45 minutes with 3 goals. With that loss, the Owls fell to 1-3-3 on the year.
That moves us to a home game versus Drexel on Sunday. The Owls came out looking strong with a quick goal from forward Emily Cavanaugh. And here is junior Haley Gutowski slipping it right under the crossbar as it bounces into the back of the net, putting the Owls up 2-0. Temple was able to hold on to the lead as Cavanaugh scored the final goal of the game. This resulted in Temple's first home win of the season with a final score of 3-0. It's time for us to take a studio timeout, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, we check in with the men's soccer team as the Owls try to move on without their all-everything goalie.
Plus, the field hockey team runs into its toughest opponent of the season in the 9th-ranked St. Joe's Hawks.
And I'm OwlSports Update's Matt Renier, live here at McGonigal Hall. Did you know that surfing was invented here in Hawaii? And Hawaii is the only state with 2 official languages. There are more than a few Temple volleyball players who know this trivia and a lot more. And I'll explain why when OwlSports Update continues.
Welcome back to OwlSports Update. The Temple volleyball team played 3 matches over the weekend at McGonigal Hall. This one in the White Tops. Focusing on Princeton, the first set was a back-and-forth battle until the Tigers opened a 22-15 lead and Temple just could not catch up. Into the next set, the Owls were able to pull away on top with help from Jem Grimshaw, who closed the set with a kill. Despite the Owls' effort in the 3rd and 4th sets, the Tigers were able to hold off the hosts and capture a 3-1 victory over the Cherry and White. It was a tough loss for the team that is still getting used to playing in Philadelphia. Joining us now to talk about this bond is OwlSports Update's Matt Renier. Hey, Matt.
Thanks, Lindsay. Most student athletes arriving on North Broad usually pack the essentials for their dorms or their apartments, but very few, if any for that fact, have to pack an entire winter wardrobe. But such is the case for a handful of Temple volleyball players from the Aloha State. For student athletes playing far from home, it can be difficult to find common ground with their teammates and their coaches. However, the Temple volleyball program has turned this struggle into a strength. With 4 of its players from Hawaii, the squad has developed a real connection despite being nearly 5,000 miles away from home.
Definitely. I think on the court, we kind of know how each other plays, so it's really easy to kind of just adjust to each other.
And it's not just the players. Assistant coaches and Hawaii natives Ren Sefra and Leslie Akio have used their Hawaiian roots to better understand them, as well as to adjust them to Philadelphia. Among the 4, there are 2 freshmen, a sophomore, and a junior.
You know, your family's far away, the weather change, here you have 4 seasons. In Hawaii, we got summer all year round.
I think the culture here for the volleyball program is very similar to Hawaii, culture and playing style.
They may not be playing on the familiar sunny shores of Hawaii, but the bond between these houses has been on display all season long, and especially in the team style of play so far.
Yeah, I think the style that our team plays matches the style of the Hawaii players.
We're more of like defensive just because we're like smaller and undersized, so I think we're like scrappier on defense.
This defensive style of play by the Owls is just another example of the connection that these players have with each other. It demonstrates how they remain tough together in the face of adversity. Volleyball isn't the only team at Temple which relies on players from across the country and across the world for that fact. 3 out of the 19 teams here don't have a single player from Pennsylvania. Of course, there's the volleyball team, but both men's and women's tennis also fill in this trio. Reporting live from McGonigal Hall, I'm Matt Rainier. Emily and Lindsay, back to you guys.
Thanks, Matt. Now back to their City Classic at McGonigal Hall. The tournament featured Villanova, Penn, and Princeton, as we mentioned earlier. The Owls' first match was played against Villanova, and Temple got into an early 2-0 deficit. However, Temple was able to win the next 2 sets to send the match to its 5th and final set, where the Wildcats won 15-8. In their next match against Penn, the Owls dropped the first set before winning the next 3 to give them a 3-1 win.
In their final match of the tournament, Temple fell to Princeton 3-1, as we showed you in the earlier highlights. The Owls are now 4-7 on the year. The Cherry and White's next match will mark the beginning of conference play when they travel to SMU on Friday before heading back to Memphis to round out the 2-match road trip.
And now heading back to the Temple Sports Complex, the men's soccer team fell to number 18 SMU on Saturday night in the Owls AAC opener. This marks Temple's first loss to the Mustangs in nearly 2 years after sweeping SMU last season. The Owls came into the matchup looking to keep that yearly win streak, but in the first 6 minutes of the game, the Mustangs fired off 2 quick shots on goal. Thanks to Temple keeper Liam Cummings, the game remained scoreless until SMU forward Papa Endoy scored to put the Mustangs up 1-0. And there goes Harvey Castro, who extends the lead 2-0. Despite the Owls' goal in the second half, SMU was able to bag 2 more goals in the last 10 minutes, and Temple was unable to score again, leaving SMU with a final tally of 4-1.
The 4 goals given up Saturday versus SMU was more than the men had given up in its last 4 games combined. All of a sudden, the Owls are reeling a bit and looking to direct themselves back into the win column, and they are doing it with an international flavor. OwlSports Update's Jill Rosen has more.
Last spring's trip to the AAC tournament may have only been 5 months ago, but it seems like much longer for the men's soccer team as they try to find success this fall. And it hasn't been easy after losing starting goalie Owen Goronski to a bad foot. This injury puts even more pressure on a largely international squad. 14 players from countries such as Canada, Japan, Israel, Netherlands, among others.
We recruit internationally. We know that this is a international city, and we've had great success with that. So, yeah, it's a challenge to put all those ideas together, but it's one we enjoy.
Junior Chaim Rosary is one out of the 6 international students who came to Temple this year alone. He played overseas like many of his peers thanks to a 2-year stint in Spain.
I think it gave me the advantage of being able to play with experienced players and older players who have a little of a head on the game and know like some of the passes or some of the plays that not really other players in Division I would have.
After losing their star goalie and getting a game postponed to the #1 ranked team in the country, Georgetown, the Owls come out here versus SMU, losing 4-1. They really need to find their stride going forward if they really want to have a successful season. And they would need to continue to lean on the international crew to do this. Already, this year, 3 out of the team's 5 goals have been scored by the international crew. From the Temple Sports Complex, I'm Gil Rosen, Owl Sports Update.
After the break, we dive right into field hockey, taking a closer look at Sunday's matchup against local rival St. Joe's and how one Temple Owl balances 2 Temple sports at one time.
And cross country is running away from the competition up in New York. Results coming your way in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Owl Sports Update. Despite holding the 9th ranked and local rival St. Joe's to just 1 shot in the first half, the Temple field hockey team fell on its own turf to the Hawks on Sunday afternoon. With only 5 total shots fired in the first half, defense was the name of the game. Temple was able to hold the Hawks as both teams headed scoreless into halftime. At the 34-minute mark, a rebounded shot off a Temple save results in a goal for St. Joe's. The Hawks ran away with the 2-0 win in the fourth quarter after scoring once again off a rebound. Despite the loss, the Owls are just the 3rd team this year to hold St. Joe's to 2 goals, and they will move on with a 5-2 record on the season. And there is one field hockey player who is quite the standout in more ways than just one. Freshman Julianne Kopech has scored 4 goals in the team's first 7 games. She is a 2-time Big East Weekly Honor Roll recipient, as well as being an indoor track 800-meter and 1600-meter New Jersey State High School champion. She may just be what some call double trouble.
And with 2 sports to worry about, balancing everything that comes with being a student athlete at the Division I level is that much more difficult. Owl Sports Update's Ricky Turner has more.
Less than 3% of female student athletes make the leap from high school to Division I sports. But Julianne Kopech pulled off the impressive feat for not 1, but 2 sports, track and field hockey.
Yep, I love the pressure.
Being a dual sport athlete is a great accomplishment, but it takes both a physical and mental toll on the athlete.
Julianne has a busy week as she goes from Howarth Field to the Star Training Facility to a room like this where she spends the rest of her time studying, doing homework, or maybe taking a nap.
Kopech's routine includes 22 hours per week dedicated to field hockey. Factoring in school, sleep, and time for herself could be an issue for some athletes, but it's an obstacle that Kopech welcomes.
I like having a busy schedule, so that's what I thrive under.
Kopech's recruiting trip was just for field hockey, but a conversation with the Temple coach quickly blossomed into another opportunity.
I said I ran track and I told her my times, and then she actually got in contact with the track coach at Temple, and then I was in contact with the track coach, and it just worked out perfectly.
Julianne cannot participate in track workouts due to NCAA rules just yet. She will feel the burden of being a dual sport athlete starting in January. For now, her focus will remain on the current field hockey season where the team sits at 4-2. Reporting for Owl Sports Update, I'm Ricky Turner.
Kopech will continue to focus on the field hockey season as the Owls look to bounce back against rival Villanova Friday at 6. After the season, Kopech shifts right into the track for the next 6 months as her athletics is really one endless cycle. This past Friday, the men's cross-country team took a trip to the Bronx to race against 13 schools at the IANA Meet of Champions. The Owls picked up their 2nd consecutive team win, with Johns Hopkins and Connecticut State rounding out the top 3. Out of the top 10 placements, 6 Temple Owls made the cut, giving them a comfortable win during their first big test of the season. Senior Joe Arthur led the pack with a 3rd place finish, and Liam Chalk placed 6th overall.